guys, I'm finally back with another video. I've taken a little break, and what you're watching right now is the really sad attempt at vlogging that I did while I went to C2E2, which is a convention and stands for Chicago Comics and Entertainment Expo, I believe. And the reason why this vlog attempt was a complete and utter failure is because this was my first time going to a convention by myself that's not local. And to be honest, it was a total roller coaster of emotions for me, and I did get super anxious on the first night, so I don't know, I kind of lost the plot and didn't really film a whole lot. I didn't film where I stayed or my table. I mean, it was kind of a huge mess, so I edited together the couple of clips that I do have, which I suppose is somewhat pointless because they don't really show a whole lot, but you know what, it is what it is. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to show you guys a sketchbook spread that I recorded a while back. You might recognize it from my sketchbook tour. It's from the Ahmed Al-Douri 100 Heads Challenge. So yeah, I will tell you guys a little bit more about how the convention went and my overall experience and thoughts on it. So I did end up liking it a lot, and I met some new friends. It was really fun, especially near the end, like the last 2 days, but I got there early on Thursday morning to make sure I have enough time to set up and make sure that everything is in order, because I've definitely had some unpredictable and shitty convention experiences because things kind of got messed up and I didn't have enough time to fix it before the con started, so I ended up, losing a bunch of money and just, yeah. So honestly, the list of crazy / shitty convention experiences that I've had is pretty long and it's all over the map, but I think mostly that has to do with the fact that I'm naturally not very good at planning, and when I get anxious about something ahead of time, I just put it off, which ends up creating a lot more problems than there would have been if I just didn't avoid the task of setting everything up properly. But yeah. So I just wanted to chat with you guys about conventions and my thoughts on them in general, some pros and cons and things like that. So I'll start with the pros. I made a little list for myself so that I don't get too sidetracked, because I know that I can very easily start rambling and my voice recordings can get out of hand, case in point. But yes, so one of the things that I love the most about conventions overall is that I get to meet friends, and I think that's probably everybody loves about conventions. And since they are social events by nature, I guess the social aspects of them are the highlight, or should be the highlight for most people, and shopping, I guess, but that would be on the other side of things, because I'm talking about conventions strictly from an exhibitor's point of view, like from Artist Alley and whatnot. So yeah, I've definitely made a lot of new friends at conventions over the years, and it's gonna be really great to meet people who do something similar, like being freelance artists or trying to make a living off of their own personal artwork and just hustling in the art industry that's adjacent to studio work, because that type of thing can be a little bit on the rare side. I don't know a whole lot of people locally who do stuff like this, like here and there, a few for sure, and this has a lot to do with the fact that I went to an animation school, which generally tends to produce people who do end up getting into this sort of thing. But like I said, even amongst people that are artists professionally, it's quite rare to find ones that do the convention thing as part of their business. It's always a lot of fun to swap stories and experiences and just have social outings that surround the convention. That's definitely one of my favorite aspects of this type of thing. And actually this time around, like I've mentioned previously, I did go alone for the first time. I've never done like a out of town / out of country trip to a convention by myself without any helpers or anything like that. So I was completely on my own, and this kind of threw me off a bit the first night. I got really anxious, actually. I think I have some sort of residual anxiety issues from some stuff that I've experienced over the past few years that I'm still trying to work through, but I guess I managed to deal with it pretty well, and it ended up going away. So obviously on the second day, I set out to definitely try and make some new friends to make sure I don't just end up doing stuff on my own again. And I was successful, thankfully. I just kind of ended up latching on to some people that I've spoken to before briefly online, and they ended up being super nice and sweet, and I ended up going out with them for dinner for both days, which was awesome and really kind of saved my overall mood for the rest of the convention, because I usually get really kind of rattled by negative emotional experiences. So I was in like a pretty bad mood, especially on the first day, and I just wanted to get out of there. And I have a tendency to look for a way out immediately to save myself from the shitty mental state. So I actually was looking up flights to just go back early just in case everything goes south and I really just can't handle being there anymore. So I did spend some time googling flights and whatnot. But anyways, that aside, like I said, I ended up having a really great time, and I met some new people that were super nice to me. And yeah, I also had a lot of fun meeting some of you guys. Like, I don't know if anybody who's going to be watching this video was one of the people that stopped by my table, but it's so nice to have people stop by and let me know that they follow me on Instagram or they've seen a video or something on YouTube and have a little chat. It's a lot of fun, and I really like meeting you guys in person as well. So those are my two favorite aspects of going to conventions. Some other fun things can just be seeing other people's art. Unfortunately, at this con, I didn't really get a chance to walk around much because I did not have a helper. I decided that I definitely don't want to do that again ever, because it's kind of a miserable experience, and it was difficult to even find time to like go get food. So I ended up not eating a whole lot those days, which was fine, but yeah, don't want a repeat of that. Anyways, I do wish that I got a chance to walk around some more, because it was a really big artist alley, and I've noticed that over the years, people are really upping their game in terms of their displays and the quality of work, and there's been such a big variety of art in recent years that I really wish I walked around some more. But yeah, I've seen some pretty cool stuff and some beautiful displays, and that's always fun as well. Just a sense of adventure too, and taking a trip and traveling a little bit is something I like as well. But like I said, it's always more fun with somebody else. So definitely gonna take a friend or something next time. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the pros. There is a lot of cons for me when it comes to doing this thing, for sure. And I'll just go over some of those now. So one of the worst things about conventions for me personally is the planning aspect of it and the unpredictability. So especially, I mean, I guess this mostly applies to conventions that are out of country or even out of town, I guess. That's what makes them a lot more complicated when it comes to making sure you have everything set up and ready to go, because there's no chance of fixing something that went amiss in between the days. So the packing needs to be super strict, and every little thing needs to be accounted for. And I know that with convention displays, there's definitely a range of complexity that you can go for setting up your art and whatnot. But for me, this is something that I've always kind of had an aversion to. I find it's really complicated because the level of detail that you can get into can get really out of hand. So acquiring like all the little things necessary to make a display look really well presented can be really hard for me personally. And that's why over the years, I've definitely tried really hard to make my displays look better, but for a long time, they looked really haphazard, and I just kind of did it last minute because I just couldn't. It's not that I couldn't be bothered, it's just that it was way too daunting for me to handle the pressure of trying to put together a nice display. And I'm still kind of having trouble with it. Like, I don't even have a banner with my name and like basic information on it, which is something that I think like 90% of conventional artists have. Still gotta make sure I get one of those this year, hopefully. But yeah, you see what I mean. It's really not for me. And obviously the planning aspect of it comes with a lot of stress, because it's one thing to have like a display set up properly, but it's another thing to make sure that it's transportable, so it has to be able to fit into the suitcase. I have to account for how much of the stuff that I can actually carry with me physically. Like, I'm not particularly strong, so it can be a serious problem. Then there's like the luggage and how well I can pack it, etc. And how much it weighs actually is a big deal as well. So a lot of the time, like, if the display stuff is not particularly heavy, I can fit some stock into the suitcase, but a lot of the time the display stuff gets out of hand, so I have to ship some of the stock and like order prints to be printed elsewhere, so I can ship that to the location. And it can very quickly just become extremely stressful, because it's really difficult to keep track of all the things and make sure that everything is going to happen on time, because you can't exactly ship stuff ahead of time depending on where you're staying. I guess it could be a lot easier if you have a friend hosting you or something like that, but if it's just you in a hotel or an Airbnb, it's got to get there like about the same time when you get there, and sometimes that can be really difficult. And yeah, as you can see, this is like a huge thing for me when it goes, so I can just ramble about it forever. But yeah, the stress is actually a pretty big deal. And you know, it's really difficult because for me, I really love the travel aspect and meeting new people and just having a good time, and I really like to use traveling experience to mark the time. Actually, it makes it a lot easier for me to remember what I did throughout the year, because it's usually something different and thus makes it more memorable. Whilst like staying at home and always working from home can get a little bit dull, but on the same hand, the stress aspect of planning everything perfectly, and also obviously making sure that the trip pays for itself and you don't end up losing any money. Like, it is at the end of the day a business thing, it's not just a fun trip, so making sure that you can earn an adequate amount of money is always a stress factor, has always been a stress factor for me, of course. And it can be really unpredictable sometimes. Things like where you get seated on the map can really play a big difference, and the level of quality of your display. Just, there's so many things that go into conventions that it is a really like love and hate relationship for me, for sure. Another thing I forgot to mention is booking flights and hotels or whatnot, making sure you have the place you're staying at lined up and good to go. Oh my god, like, flights for me is brutal. I don't it's hard to explain, but I've actually made mistakes in booking flights multiple times, and this one time I straight up just booked a flight to the wrong freaking city, and I couldn't even change it, so I ended up just canceling my appearance at the convention altogether and end up losing out on like a couple of $1,000s. And I was so relieved at the end of the day that I didn't have to go anymore and didn't have to worry about the planning and like the luggage and the display and all that other shit, that I was so relieved that the money didn't even matter. And I don't even feel bad about it now, because at the time, this was last year, I tried to do a lot more conventions last year than I ever did before, and it was a mixed bag of stuff. Obviously, I can say a lot of great things about it. Definitely had a lot of fun, but also it kind of got just way too exhausting for me, and I ended up just canceling that one convention that I was gonna go to and lost a bunch of money. But yeah, that was a good thing in the end, because it really made me kind of reevaluate how I feel about the whole thing, and I've decided that I definitely don't want to be an artist that frequents conventions, because it's just not for me. Overall, I cannot be a convention artist. So yeah, and a lot of unforeseen complications can arise out of nowhere. Like when you ship stuff, sometimes it just doesn't get there in time. Sometimes I've had a thing happen where I ordered some prints to be made by a company that I have ordered from before. I thought that they could, get it done, but they completely messed up the order and sent me like a small fraction of what I ordered, and I ended up not having my main stock of large prints for the first day, which is a huge loss business wise. And I don't know, overall it was just the most stressful thing. I had to last minute find a printer that's local, and then I couldn't even do it for the first day anyway, because I had to be there at the table. It was super crowded, and yeah, it was a nightmare that first day. I ended up working out fine in the end, but yeah, stuff like that like really takes that out of me. And then the more stressful the convention is, the longer the recovery time ends up being. So I've noticed that, strictly speaking, from the business point of view, sometimes conventions aren't even really worth it for me to go to, because even if I can make a decent profit, I find that the time that it takes for me to get back to normal and feel like I'm up to get some serious work done again can be up to a week, like sometimes even a couple of weeks in the past when the convention was extra stressful. I think I just get really, really heavily impacted by negative experiences, and like just chaotic stress, stuff like that really affects me. So I find it really hard to get back to work afterwards, and I need a lot of time to recharge also socially. And usually when I get home after an especially stressful convention experience, I just tend to want to sleep a lot, so I will honestly just spend majority of the time sleeping for at least like a couple of days, and then the next couple of days I have to like really remember what I'm in the middle of doing aside from the conventions, and that's if I have the luxury to even do that at all. This time around, it was actually definitely not the most stressful convention experience I've had by any means, but I did have a huge deadline that I had to hit a few days after returning, and thankfully I managed to take Monday off to just sleep all day and kind of regain energy and stuff. But then I had to work extra hours, and it was pretty brutal to hit the deadline in time for some freelance project that I'm part of. And yeah, I ended up working way more hours than I normally do, and I did get some mild aching in my finger bone, which is usually what happens when I work for too long. But overall, like, I did manage to make it work, thank God, and now I'm starting to get back in the groove of things. I actually wanted to make a YouTube video last week as well, but obviously couldn't do it with the deadline and stuff. And yeah, so now I'm finally feeling like I'm kind of back in the groove, and I can get back into a regular schedule for making videos and new content. So yeah, I guess to wrap it up, I just want to let you guys what's going on with me currently. I'm just wrapping up my art book, and I did film a small clip showing the proofs that I got from the factory a week or so ago, like a couple of weeks ago. I'll be posting that video hopefully soon after this one, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So I'm basically just wrapping up the art book files and sending them off to be printed, like within the next couple of days, hopefully, if everything goes according to schedule. So that's super exciting. And I'm planning to do a big sale in my shop, because there's some products that I have been thinking about and wanting to make. So I just wanted to raise some money for that and give myself a little break from the store so I get a chance to regroup and reorganize my stuff. So I will say some more information about that in my next video, but do keep that in mind. So if you were thinking of getting something from my store envy, I will be having a sale very soon, so maybe hold off for a few days on that. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching my videos, and welcome to my channel to all new subscribers. If you did end up sitting through this whole video, I know that I tend to ramble a lot sometimes, but yeah, I will be back with a lot more content soon, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!